Top Thrill Dragster. Going in, I thought this coaster was way overhyped. I thought, there's no way I'm going to like this coaster that much. It's just one launch over a hill and it's done. It's a one-trick pony, and I had a feeling that this was going to get ranked pretty low on my Cedar Point list and pretty low on my overall rankings. Well, I'm happy to say that I was wrong. This coaster might be one of the most intense coasters I have ever ridden. The launch itself is absolutely terrifying, in a good way. I could not help but hold on during the entire launch section. I almost felt as if the train was going to rip itself apart. It was that good. This coaster has some crazy stats. First of all, the launch is at 120 miles per hour. That is super fast, and that's a number to me, but now riding 120 miles per hour on that coaster, that was insane. I didn't even get to do the front row yet. I could only imagine how that feels in the front seat, and that's definitely on my bucket list. Then you hit a height of 420 feet. I remember the second time I rode it, it was during the day. The first time was during the night. At night, you really didn't get to appreciate how high up you were. It was that day ride when I finally got to look to my left and then look to my right. And I remember yelling to my sister, "Holy cow, look how high up we are." Then you go down a 400-foot drop. That drop isn't really talked about much, but that drop is awesome. You don't get a bunch of airtime, but you get this really cool look down, straight down to Earth, and you get so much speed coming out of it. It is so intense. Now, I would walk you through the ride, but I pretty much just did that by talking about the stats, because that's pretty much what this coaster does. It launches you up, it takes you up 420 feet, and it drops you back down to Earth. Like I said, I was concerned that that was going to be a downfall for this ride, but let me tell you, the intensity of the ride makes up for it. You are glued to your seat on that launch, and that launch is so sudden. You can kind of watch the lights to get a hint on when you're going to go, but you really don't know when that thing is just going to shoot you off, and you don't have time to think once it happens. It is one of the most insane coaster experiences that I've ever felt. And honestly, if they just added 5 elements to this coaster, it would be everyone's number one. I mean, if it had one ejector hill, maybe an inversion, maybe a bank turn, and then maybe another floater airtime hill, I mean, I could not see why this wouldn't be one of the best coasters out there. So let's get to my ratings of it. For intensity, it gets a 5. It's the highest 5 out of all the 5s that I've given to the coasters. It's the most intense coaster I've ridden. The speed, the height, that's all you need to know. So now let's look at fun. And honestly, it's hard for me to judge this because I only rode it 2 times. But after the 2 rides, I feel like I could never get bored of that insane launch. So for me, personally, this ride gets a 4.5 for fun. If it was a little bit longer, it would get the full 5 rating. Now let's look at uniqueness. And uniqueness for this coaster was hard for me to judge because there's not a lot of coasters out there that are like this. So I want to say it's very unique. But the few coasters that are like this out there are almost exact replicas. You have Accelerator, which pretty much does the same thing except it has a couple bank turns after it. You have King to Ka, which is also very similar except it has the over shoulder restraints. It goes a little bit taller. It also has a fake airtime hill. I say fake because from what I've heard, you don't get any airtime on the airtime hill. You also have Red Force over in Europe. And so a lot of these coasters are out there are almost exact models. So I wouldn't say it's the most unique coaster, but what it doesn't happen on very many coasters out there. So for that, I'm going to give it a 2.5. So next, let's look at comfort. And I'm going to give the comfort rating a 4. I think the seats on the trains are really nice. They're very open. You have the T-bars, just like Millennium Force. And I think the ride overall is pretty smooth. It does get a little shaky when you're going down the launch, but besides that, it's a pretty smooth coaster. The launch also thrusts you back in the seat. So I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable ride out there, but for its style, I would say it's pretty darn close, and that's why I give it a 4. Finally, let's take a look at the one rating that's probably going to be this ride's downfall, and that is duration. And duration, if you guessed it, it's going to get a 1.5. I feel like you're not completely cheated out of the ride experience because you get 2 really awesome elements in a coaster, so it's hard to feel like you got cheated out of the experience, but it could have used a lot more elements to get the full ride experience. Especially when you wait over an hour to ride this, it can be a little disappointing that you only got a 30-second ride experience. But with that said, it's not completely a wash, which is why I give it a 1.5. Now let's look at overall, and this might shock you guys. I actually think overall this coaster is a 4.5. And you might be thinking, well, you just gave it 2 really bad ratings when it comes to uniqueness and duration. But I think that the intensity and fun are so high up on my list. Like I said, they're like the highest 5s out of all the 5s that you can get. The ride is just that extreme that I can't help but give this a 4.5 rating. Again, in my opinion, this is the most intense coaster that I've ever ridden, and likely going to be the most intense coaster in the world for me. So, let me know what you think of Top Thrill Dragster. Is this the most intense coaster that you've been on? Let us know in the comment section below. And as always, give this video a like if you like it, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more theme park content. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.